Hello everyone, and welcome back to the series where I talk about myself and my life in music. Ever since I started doing YouTube, playing live has taken a major backseat, but that was a huge part in my development, and there is one specific gig that stands out as a deeply fulfilling and special experience. It wasn't a traditional gig, more of a residency I guess, but every summer when I was in school for music, I would come back here to my home in Winnipeg and play the guitar for patients in a hospital. It was honestly the best summer job someone like me could have had, and today I'm going to tell you a bit about that experience. I went to school in Toronto for music, and like I said, every summer I would come back home. The first summer back, I found myself with absolutely nothing to do. I needed to make some money, so I fired up the old job search website, put guitar into the search bar, not expecting much, but I got lucky. Lo and behold, there was an advertisement looking for university students to play guitar in hospitals for the next few months. Now, I was expecting I was going to end up doing something like landscaping work, so this was a delightful surprise. I did a quick audition at the program director's house and was hired on the spot. My job description was pretty simple. I was the in-house guitarist for one of the long-term stay hospitals in town. A long-term hospital is a bit different from a typical one. There's no emergency room, and it caters to people who will be there for an extended period of time. Mostly, they're the elderly who aren't able to look after themselves and need more than a nursing home provides. To most of them, this is their home, which gives it a different feel than most hospitals I've been to. All the staff knew each other, and they also got to know me. The patients would form friendships, and it certainly didn't have a high-paced, stressful environment. I would get a schedule with where in the hospital I would play. My days were 6 hours long. I would spend an hour or so in one place, move on to the next, and somewhere in there I'd take an hour-long lunch. And yes, that hour-long lunch was paid. Like I said, this was a great gig. I would typically spend that time reading Game of Thrones in the courtyard. On each unit, I would spend half an hour or so going room to room, asking the patients if they wanted to hear a song or just wanted to hang out. After that, I would do a 30-minute concert in a common area. I did a countless number of these individual visits. I would usually play fingerstyle arrangements of songs, something like this. I played this rendition of There Will Be Another You hundreds, probably thousands of times, but one specific time stands out. There was one fellow who had lost his ability to speak or communicate, but the staff told me that he used to love music, so it wouldn't hurt to go and play for him. He obviously didn't say anything to me, but as I was playing that song, I saw his finger ever so slightly just tapping along with the rhythm. I did this job for 4 summers and used this cheap little parlor guitar for every one. As you can see on the neck, it has been worn in from all those hours. I carry it around in this bag, which is covered in patches that I bought during a 6-month adventure in Australia. It would always be a great conversation piece. And it would appear that I still have a fraction of my hospital name tag on it. Many of these visits would just turn into conversations. I would listen to their stories, maybe tell them some of mine. I'd often meet their families at some point and maybe play music for them too. One of the things that made this job special was how happy people were to have me around. I mean, as a patient in one of these places, you see a lot of the hospital staff, but some young kid with a guitar is definitely out of the ordinary. I could tell that my visits would really brighten up the day for many of them, especially since I would play jazz music. Jazz music is based around old show tunes. These are the kind of songs that the old folks grew up with. I'd play the songs that I was learning in school, and it wouldn't be rare that someone would sing along. The staff, the people I played for, their families were so grateful it made me feel like an absolute rock star. And in my mind, I was just thankful to be making steady money playing guitar. To have this added emotional bonus was wonderful. I did this for 4 years and saw the full range of hospital experiences. There was one unit that was a special care ward for people with advanced dementia, people who were violent, people who were trying to escape, things like that. At first, this was a bit of a shock, but I got used to it pretty quick. I also learned that if somebody was slowly coming at me in a wheelchair, making punching motions when I was playing, then the best thing to do was just grab my stuff and move to the other side of the room. This would buy me 10 minutes or so until they would punchingly make their way over to where I'd moved to, but no big deal. I would just grab my stuff and move back to where I came from. Doing this job for multiple summers also meant I got to forge a number of new relationships. There was one lady who specifically stands out. She was a former ballerina who had traveled the world as a dancer. We hit it off instantly. She was obviously a music fan. I would go and chat with her, sometimes for hours at a time. She would tell me all about her art and the incredible places that she'd been. She was also a big football, or as we call it, soccer fan. So during the days when the World or Euro Cups were on, I would go to her room and watch the games. Yes, this was my job. There was another fellow who had lost his vision, but he told me he was a huge music fan. I asked him what his favorite song was. He told me it was Blue Moon, so I went and learned Tommy Emmanuel's rendition of that tune. I'll play you a snippet of it. The first time I played that for him was pretty special. I'm not sure there's been anyone who's enjoyed my music that much. He was incredibly thankful that I'd learned a song just for him. After I played it for him that first time, I asked him what he would like to hear next, and he told me Blue Moon, so I probably played that song 3 or 4 times for him that day, and then multiple times every other day I visited him. Now, the tough part about that job was the nature of the place was that it's the last home for many of the patients. So one day I went to visit my friend and play him Blue Moon, but he wasn't there. I asked if he was out for a walk, but he had passed away. I did see his wife a couple of years later, and she told me how much my visits had meant to her husband. These type of interactions embodied what the job was all about, and I have countless stories just like this. I mean, I was just looking for a way to make money over the summer, but it turned into a life experience showing me what music can do for people. I met a lot of great people when I worked there over my 4 summers, and I have very fond memories of it. Some days we would sit out by the garden with a group of patients. I would play Here Comes the Sun and You Are My Sunshine, which were always big hits. One fellow I often played for used to be a singer, and he would sing along at the top of his lungs to my rendition of All the Things You Are. There was one lady who would often compliment me on how my legs looked and even asked if I wanted to go on a date with her 60 years ago. There was an Italian fellow who I would also watch soccer with. He was the nicest fellow that you can imagine, except on the days when Italy was playing. I have no idea what he was yelling. I assume he was just swearing in his native tongue. I was able to spend my hours hanging out and playing music for people who really enjoyed what I did. It also paid a fair bit above minimum wage, not a bad way to spend a summer. The program is still going on. It's called Manitoba Artists in Healthcare. I'll put a link to it in the description. Feel free to check it out. And if you are a university student in Winnipeg who's also a musician, definitely check it out. It's funded through donations, but I believe the bulk of the money comes from the government. The idea being that these types of programs do a lot of good for the community and are a worthwhile expenditure. In my experience, seeing the impact that my visits and my music had on the quality of life of the patients, it absolutely is. Anyways, that about wraps up the story of the best gig I've ever had. I've played for a lot of amazing audiences, but this stands out. It felt like something bigger than music. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like I said, if you want to learn more about the program that I work for, I'll put up the link in the description. I don't believe that most places have things like this, but check out and see if your area does. If so, give them some love. This is important stuff. And if you don't have something like this in your area and think that you should, reach out to the people who make those kind of decisions. I'll leave you with some wisdom that one of the patients told me. You should have a drink or a beer from everywhere in the world. That way, no matter who you meet, no matter where they're from, you'll always have something to talk about. I'm Samurai Guitarist. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again soon.